Okay, hi, my name is Aaron, and I'm gonna instruct you in building what I have built. By the way, I did not invent this idea, but I definitely created something much cooler and much better. Okay, I have built a liquid filled hydro cooler, super cooler in this case, for a CPU processor or motherboard or graphics card, whatever you want to attach it to, it'll cool it. And if you don't know what a hydro liquid cooler is, I will show you. For example, this, my friend, is a Corsair hydro liquid cooler. How it works is there's a radiator on the back, which there's also supposed to be another fan, which I took off. I took off this fan so you could see example. You can see those fine little radiator fins, and then there's a fan on the front, as you can see. And as you keep seeing in the way, you keep seeing these hoses. And they are attached to the heat sink, which also happens to have a pump built into it that keeps circulating the liquid fluid. And if you are a computer geek like I am, you are also familiar with what this is. It is, and if you don't know what it is, this is a heat sink. It goes on the processor, and usually there'll be like a fan like this on top, with a little vortex tubing or whatever attachment to make better airflow. Um, well, in this video, I have created something that cools and keeps it cooler than this piece of shit Corsair. And any little geek or electrician or anyone can do this. I just happen to have fun doing this, so I invent a lot of stuff or make a lot of crazy shit. And in this video, I will show you how you do it, and I'll take you by steps, and I'll show you pictures of the process of what I did. So stay tuned. Here is a list of things that you will need. One, a heat sink, which it looks like this. You will need 10 feet of 3/8 inch hosing, heat resistant, which looks like this. You will also need a radiator from, you could use, if you really want to go crazy, you can use like a car radiator, but that's a little extreme. I got mine out of an old air conditioner after all the Freon was leaked out, and I rinsed out the inside of it, which I had two of them out of the air conditioner, and I chose the bigger one. But here's a picture of both of them. Well, as you can see, the two radiators I ripped out of the air conditioner. I had to put them in the bathtub because they were filthy, and in order for good airflow and good cooling, I had to thoroughly clean all the crud and all the shit out of it so it could have good airflow. And yes, there's two of them. I did not use both of them. I used the big one that curves on the side, and I attached it to a platform which looks like this. The next item you will need is copper piping. Obviously this is a small piece, but this is just an example just to show you what I'm working with, which since I took apart an air conditioner, I had plenty of copper piping. And this is perfect for it. So you're going to need that. Some tools you will need during this process are zip ties, you will need other size zip ties, scissors, soldering gun, solder, electrical tape, my handy flashlight, and a drill. You will also need some brackets to secure the radiator to the piece of wood platform. You will need screws, and you will need a few other things. Okay, let's begin. So, what you're going to need now is your computer heatsink. Just a regular heatsink. Okay, and as you can see, there's 3 holes, and it's a little shitty drill job, but it'll work. And how you're going to drill these holes is you're going to use metal drill bits that are purposely made for drilling through metal. I happen to have a whole set. And you're going to need a really good drill and powerful, because these things, if you have a shitty drill, it's not going to drill. It doesn't matter what drill bit you're using, if you have a shitty drill, it won't drill through it. Okay, next, you're going to add copper lines. You're going to basically, this is an example, I drilled 2 heat sinks just so I can do this video, and this is also an example piece. This is not the length you're supposed to use. This is just to show you an example. Okay, you're going to take your copper piping and your heatsink that you drilled, and you're going to insert the copper piping in each one of these holes. And they're going to go in this side, and they're going to come out this side. Once you have it all in there, you're going to take your handy soldering gun, torch, whatever you have. It's got to be something really good. You can't just use a shitty soldering gun. I used a couple things. I used a couple soldering guns. And you're going to drip the solder through these crevices, and make sure you only go where the pipe is. So you have to look down with a light, which is what Mr. Handy flashlight's for, or a computer lamp, which is, this, which I use. And you're going to seal the copper piping in place where you want it, because you don't want, if it's not completely attached to the heatsink and it's just floating inside these holes, it won't cool it down. In this part, I'm going to explain it easier for you. I'm going to show you a quick couple pictures of what your next step is. First, you're going to have the holes drilled. Then I inserted the copper lines. Then you add the hosing with zip ties like this. Okay, and then make sure the zip ties are really, really fucking tight. Because if they're loose or not tight enough, you're going to have water leaking, and then water will leak in your computer. And after the project's done, when you do create this project, first test it out for a couple hours to make sure no water leaks. So set a couple paper towels under everything and all the hose lines, and just to make sure you don't have any wet spots. And paper towels is the easiest way for me to find wet spots. Okay, so then you'll need to attach the Yuko micro pump model NME to the platform, and it looks like this. Attach the Yuko pump, micro pump, to the platform in its metal casing, and make sure it's grounded like this. You will now next take the 10-foot 3/8 inch hosing, and you will cut 2 feet off, cut that 2 feet in half, and then cut the 8 feet of it in half, and you will take the 2 halves from the 8 feet, and you will attach it to the radiator with zip ties like this on the inlet and outlet. You will next attach that 3-inch hosing attached to the outlet of the radiator to the pump like this. Then you'll take the second long piece of pipe or rubber hose, and you'll attach it to the pump, and you will zip tie it really tight, and you'll have one long one going to the inlet, and then one long one going to the pump, the Yuko pump. And then this process is just a bitch because it's involving filling up the radiator and the hoses and getting rid of all the bubbles, which you will not get rid of all the bubbles. You will get rid of most of them, but you'll never be able to get rid of all the bubbles. But the next process, you're going to need a bucket like this. You will fill the bucket 3/4 of the way with water. Make sure it's cold water, not hot water. You don't want it already getting the radiator and the heatsink getting hot before you even start your project. Okay. Once the bucket has water in it, the next step will be to take the inlet part of the hosing that attached to the radiator, and you will attach it to your heatsink that looks like this now. You will now put the heatsink that you attached to the inlet hose in the bucket of water like this. You will now put the outlet hose in the bucket. Do not submerge it. It will look like this. Okay, just as a pointer, you don't want the hose to kink up or wind up, because when you get the hose, it's already reeled up in its curve, and if you don't want the hose to keep curling up, take electrical tape and every few half feet put electrical tape on both the hoses, and it'll keep it from kinking up. Just a heads up. Okay. The next step, once you have the hoses in place, you will take your handy bucket, 3/4 filled all the way up, or 3/4 filled all the way up, and you will put it on a high surface, somewhere high not too high where if you spill it, it'll make a mess, but somewhere high. And the reason is, if anyone knows, in order for oxygen to escape a hose, it's got to go up. So, in order for the water to go in the inlet tube, it will have to go down. And gravity will bring the liquid down and push the oxygen out, which is up. And as you can see on the radiator, there's plenty of copper lines, so it's going to take a while. You're going to probably be sitting there for about an hour doing this process where you push out the bubbles, because you don't want too many bubbles. You'll fry your pump. There will be bubbles. You will not get all of them out, because you would have to take a bucket and the hose and jiggle the hose while you're moving the bucket and moving the radiator and tilting the radiator in different directions. And with this pump, you won't push out all the bubbles, but in order for most of the bubbles to get out, the bucket's got to be on like a shelf or a high surface, you know, somewhere high. Okay, now once this bucket is got the two hoses in it and it's up on a high shelf, then you can turn on the pump. And it's going to take a while for the water to get sucked into the hose and pushed out the other outlet hose. And like I said, it's going to take an hour for all the bubbles to get out, or even longer. It's going to take, this is the longest process of the whole project. And you're just going to have to wait. And after about an hour, check the outlet hose and check the hoses. Since you're using clear rubber hosing, you'll be able to see the bubbles going through it. If you don't see any more bubbles through it, and if the outlet hose is just a constant stream of water pouring into the bucket, then you're good. And the next step will be to stick your hands in the bucket with the water. And I know this sounds crazy, but in order not to get any more bubbles in it, you have to do this process underwater. So you will stick your hands in the bucket, take the outlet hose, and you will attach it to the second piece on the heatsink underwater. And once that's done, there'll be a constant circulation of water flowing in. And of course, like I said, you will not get all the bubbles out, but you'll get most of them. And once that process is done, you will lay it on a towel, take the heatsink out of the bucket, and lay it on a towel, and let the pump run. Let the pump run while the heatsink's drying on the towel. And of course, do not put it in your computer. At least let it sit overnight and let the water flow around in it. And once the water is flowing in it, the heatsink, you know, the pump will recognize that there's water going through it, and the heatsink will be dry enough for the next couple steps, so you're not making a mess. Okay, and then you're going to do this. Okay, so you're going to have this step. You're going to go to the store. I went to Tiger Direct, and I bought this fan. It's a Kingwin, and it wasn't too expensive. It was $18. And the other cool part is it has a blue LED lighting in it, so it even lights up, so it's even cooler. It's 200 millimeter fan, and it's a 2000 RPM fan. Okay, so now that that's out of the place, you will now take the fan and you will zip tie it to the radiator. Once it is zip tied to the radiator, you will take a 12-volt power source and attach it to the fan. It has to be 12 volts, otherwise you won't get the full potential out of the fan, you won't get the full airflow, it just won't flow right, and it won't cool down your computer for shit. Once it's attached, everything should look like this. The complete finished product will look like this. After the pump has been running for at least 24 hours, like I said, put paper towels under everything, and the next morning, look for leaks, through all the hoses, and if you don't have any leaks, extend the hoses like this. This is what it should look like, the heatsink that will go in your computer. As you can see, there is liquid in the hose, is running, and of course in the beginning of the video I showed you 3 holes drilled. Well, how compact my computer is, the 3 copper lines kept kinking up the rubber hosing and causing the pump not to work. So I had to downgrade, but it's still the same thing and it still works. And when it's in your computer, it will look like this. This is what it looks like in your computer when the hose is not kinked and when it's modified like I just did. Unless you have bigger space and like a bigger CPU box, you have to modify it. So, okay, here's what it looks like. Now at this point, you can lock in the heatsink in your computer, turn on your computer, and run it. And it'll be colder than the Corsair heatsink I showed you in the beginning of the video. And it's a fun project. If you have nothing to do, try it. And this is what it'll look like and how it'll look running. And this is the end of my video. Thank you for watching. As you can see, everything is running. The heatsink's cool, cold, radiator's cold, fan's running, everything's good. The end. Have fun trying it yourself.